Welcome, dear friends, to another gentle journey through time. Tonight, we drift quietly back to Neolithic Britain, to a land where rivers flowed wide and wild, forests whispered in the wind, and early communities lived in harmony with the earth around them. Imagine walking along the soft banks of ancient waters, feeling the mist rise from the river, listening to the distant call of birds, and the hush of reeds swaying in the breeze. In this peaceful journey, we will explore the lifeblood of the land of rivers that carried not just water, but life, memory, and ritual. You will witness the quiet ceremonies, the stone circles aligned with sun and river, and the enduring rhythm of daily life that connected people to the natural world in ways both practical and profound. So settle into your most comfortable space, close your eyes, and let the sounds of calm rivers and tranquil landscapes carry you back 5,000 years to a Britain where history flows as gently and continuously as the waters themselves. And as we move through this serene story, soothing music will gradually begin to play, guiding you into a state of deep relaxation and peaceful reflection. Close your eyes, dear traveler, and let the noise of the present world drift softly away. In its place, imagine a gentler rhythm, one shaped not by engine screens or hurried footsteps, but by wind brushing through vast, untouched forests and the steady pulse of ancient rivers weaving their way through a land still young in human memory. Tonight, we step back. Not just centuries, but millennia. 5,000 years fall away like mist in morning sunlight, revealing a Britain so peaceful, so wild, that it feels like a dream slowly unfolding. It is the Neolithic Age, the New Stone Age, when early farming communities have begun to settle the land, but the world around them remains largely unmarked by human hands. As we drift through time, the sights and sounds shift. Roads and cities fade, replaced by rolling grasslands, dense woodland canopies, and winding waterways that glimmer beneath the pale glow of a distant sun. The air is cooler, clearer, scented with damp earth, sweet grasses, and wood smoke rising from distant hearths. Picture yourself standing at the edge of an immense forest. Oaks, elms, hazel, and birch grow in thick, towering groves, their branches interlacing to form living walls of green. The forest floor is soft beneath your feet, layers of fallen leaves, moss, and tiny wildflowers forming a natural carpet. Shafts of sunlight spill through breaks in the canopy, scattering golden light across the ground. In the quiet, you can hear the gentle movements of life all around you. The flutter of birds' wings, the distant call of red deer, the rustling of small creatures weaving through underbrush. But the forest is only the beginning of this journey. Ahead stretches a vast landscape shaped by river-strewed giants of their time, flowing broader and wilder than their modern forms. These rivers carve their paths through open plains, meandering past marshlands, wetlands, and early human settlements. They are the veins of Neolithic Britain, carrying water, food, and meaning to the people who live here. Take a slow step forward and imagine the land rolling gently toward the horizon. To the west, low hills rise, softened by sheets of heather and bracken. To the east, the land flattens into spacious meadows where tall grasses sway like waves in a quiet sea. Everywhere, the world is alive with birdsong. From the cries of waterfowl drifting overhead to the soft cooing of wood pigeons perched high in the trees. A light breeze brushes against your skin, cool and refreshing. It carries the earthy scent of river mud and the faint mineral temps of freshwater spray. As you walk, the distant murmur of flowing water begins to grow clearer, its rhythm steady and soothing. Soon, the trees part, revealing a wide river glistening in the soft afternoon light. This river, perhaps an early ancestor of the Thames, or Severn, moves with a calm authority. Its surface is smooth in some places, rippled in others, where small fish break the water, or where reeds sway at the edges. It feels ancient, patient, as though it has been flowing long before human communities ever arrived. And in many ways, it has. Rivers have shaped this land for thousands of years, carving valleys, nourishing wildlife, and creating natural pathways across an otherwise challenging landscape. The Neolithic people who live nearby understand the river's importance instinctively. To them, it is not simply water, it is life. From its depths, they gather fish and freshwater mussels. Along its banks, They collect reeds for basketry and building, clay for pottery, and smooth stones for shaping tools. The river guides seasonal movements, marks boundaries, and offers routes that connect distant communities. Its cycles of flooding and retreating enrich the soil, making fields fertile for early crops like barley and emmer wheat. As you follow the river's edge, note how clean and quiet everything feels. There are no boats made of metal, no bridges of concrete, only simple dugout canoes hollowed from massive tree trunks lying pulled onto shore. These early vessels are smooth and dark, shaped lovingly by steady hands using flint tools. Their presence suggests a small settlement nearby, and indeed, as you walk further along the bank, you see faint signs of human life woven gently into the landscape. A few dwellings stand set back from the water. Circular huts built with wooden posts, woven walls, and thatched roofs made from long grasses. From above, they resemble small domes, rising naturally from the earth. Smoke drifts lazily from a central hearth in one of the structures, carrying the scent of burning oak. This settlement is peaceful, quiet voices float on the breeze, mingling with the laughter of children and the splash of someone stepping into the shallow water. Even in this ancient world, community and routine shape daily life. Families gather to prepare food, grind grain, tend seasonal crops, and craft stone tools with steady, practiced motions. There is no rush here. No sense of urgency, only the tranquil rhythm of existence connected deeply to the land and water around them. Pausing near the riverbank, you kneel and touch the cool surface of the water. The ripples spread softly, distorting your reflection into smooth patterns that dance with the light. In this moment, you can almost feel the presence of countless seasons, countless generations, each shaped by the ebb and flow of these ancient waters. The river has watched them all, carrying their memories downstream into time. The gentle world around you invites stillness. Listen closely. Hear the hum of insects, the soft creaking of tree branches as they sway in the wind, the quiet splash of a fish breaking the surface. Everything blends into a harmonious tapestry of sound, designed by nature itself, a calming lullaby, stretching across 5,000 years. As the sun begins its slow descent, the sky turns warm shades of amber and rose, reflecting beautifully on the river's surface. The light softens the landscape, making hills, trees, and water glow with a golden serenity. Day fades into evening, and the world grows even quieter. This is the Britain of the Neolithic Age, peaceful, pristine, deeply connected to its rivers and forests, a land where the slow turning of time is marked not by clocks or machines, but by the steady flow of water and the gentle glow of sunrise and sunset. And as dusk settles, we step gently forward, ready to explore the deeper mysteries hidden along these ancient waterways. As the soft light of dawn spreads across ancient Britain, the rivers awaken with a shimmering calm. Mist drifts slightly above their surfaces, curling and uncurling as though the waters themselves are breathing. For the Neolithic communities who call these riverbanks home, this gentle exhalation marks the beginning of a new day, a day shaped, guided, and sustained entirely by the flowing lifelines that wind through the land. To live in this age is to live in constant dialogue with water. It is the quiet heartbeat of existence, a companion whose steady presence guides every rhythm of daily life. Rivers are not simply features of the landscape, they are its living arteries, carrying nourishment, opportunity, and spiritual significance through the valleys and plains. Without them, survival would be uncertain. With them, communities flourish in ways both practical and profound. As the sun rises higher, casting soft gold across the river's surface, early settlers stir from their circular homes. Some emerge carrying clay pots to gather fresh water. They move slowly, deliberately, respecting the cool morning air and the quiet of the river. The water here is clear and cold, flowing from distant springs and rain-fed streams, but weave like threads through the forested hills. Women and men kneel at the bank, dipping pots into the gentle current. Ripples shimmer outward, blending with the natural rhythm of the river. This water will be used for everything: drinking, cooking, grinding grains, washing hands darkened with soil and stone dust. The river nourishes their bodies, just as it nourishes the land. Without it, crops could not be grown, and food could not be prepared. Life itself is tied to each shimmering drop. Further along the bank, a group of children steps carefully into the shallows. Their laughter rolls softly across the water as they search for mussels, snails, and small fish. These foods add variety to their meals, offering essential nutrients in a world where diversity is survival. Children learn the river early, its depths, its seasons, its moods. They learn where reeds grow thickest, where fish gather in deeper pools, where the mud is firm enough to walk upon, and where it turns treacherously soft. The river is their teacher long before they ever grasp their first flint tool. As the morning unfolds, men and women venture into the deeper sections using small dugout canoes, expertly carved from great fallen trees. These canoes glide effortlessly along the water's surface, carrying travelers from one settlement to another, sometimes miles apart. Land travel in this era is slow and difficult, hindered by thick forests, marshes, and uneven terrain. But by water, movement becomes smooth, silent, and efficient. Rivers are the highways of Neolithic Britain, connecting people across vast distances in a way no land path could. Trade, too, flows along these watery routes. Along the river's edge, stones used for crafting polished axes might be exchanged for pottery, timber, or grains grown in a distant settlement. Though communities are small and scattered, the river binds them together. Connections ripple outward, forming early networks of cooperation and shared knowledge. As midday approaches, the river continues its quiet work. Its banks are bustling with activity, yet everything unfolds with a peaceful rhythm, measured, unhurried, in harmony with the land. Women gather reeds and grasses to weave baskets and mats. These materials grow in abundance here, their long green stems bending gracefully in the breeze. Men set traps for fish, made from woven branches, and placed skillfully in the shallows where the current slows. Each trap is a product of generations of observation, crafted to blend seamlessly with the natural contours of the riverbed. Seasonal rhythms shape all of this activity. In spring, the rivers swell with melted snow and rain, nourishing fields where barley and wheat take root. In summer, waters recede slightly, exposing clay-rich banks, perfect for pottery making. In autumn, fish migrate upstream, providing a plentiful harvest that communities rely on to sustain themselves through the winter. And in winter, when frost clings to reed and branch, the river slows, dark and cold, but never fully sleeping. Even then, its presence brings comfort, a reminder that life flows onward. It is during these seasons of change that the river also becomes a gathering place. In the cooler months, families sit near the water's edge, wrapping themselves in furs and woven cloaks. Firelight flickers across the surface, blending with the quiet murmur of the current. Stories are told, stories of ancestors, of animal spirits, of the river's origin, and the land shaping by forces older than memory. These tales bind the community together, weaving a shared identity rooted in the natural world. The river also shapes their spiritual beliefs. While the sacred rituals themselves will come later in our journey, even now, the early foundations of reverence are evident. The river is viewed not merely as water, but as a threshold, a boundary between the world of the living and the mysterious realm beneath. Its depths hold secrets, reflections, and memories. The people notice patterns in its flow, moods in its movements, and signs in its changes. When animals gather near certain bends or when plants bloom earlier than expected, the river seems to speak in its own quiet language. As the day softens into late afternoon, the golden light warms the river banks. Birds swoop low over the water, diving for fish. Wild cattle graze nearby, their movements slow and deliberate. Everything in this world revolves around the river's presence. Paths are worn along its edges from countless footsteps. Clearings form where communities gather. Fields stretch outward from its banks, their fertile soil a direct gift from the river's yearly floods. Even the tools used daily: stone axes, bone needles, flint knives are shaped, using water-worn stones collected from the shallows. Smooth rounded stones provide ideal surfaces for grinding and sharpening. Every object, every activity, carries the faint imprint of the river's influence. As evening returns, shadows lengthen across the land. The river grows dark and reflective, a mirror for the sky above. Families finish their tasks and return to their homes, guided by the constant whisper of water flowing gently through the night. The cool air carries the scent of damp reeds and hearth smoke, settling softly over the settlement like a blanket. In this ancient world, the river is everything. Food, water, travel, communication, crafting, ritual, and identity. It is the lifeblood of the land, a steady presence guiding each generation through the turning seasons. And as stars appear in the quiet sky above, the community settles into rest, trusting that the river will continue its eternal journey even as they sleep. Soon, we will wander further along these ancient waterways, discovering the great rivers themselves will be broader and more vibrant than the ones we know today. As we continue our tranquil journey through Neolithic Britain, let us drift now toward the great rivers, the mighty waterways that carved their way through wild landscapes long before stones were lifted into circles or settlements rose beside the banks. These rivers were not the modest, managed channels we see today. They were wider, deeper, and far more untamed, coursing through a land thick with forests, marshlands, and creatures that shaped the rhythm of life for early communities. Imagine rising above the land as if carried by a gentle breeze. The forests stretch endlessly, patched with glimmering waterways that opened like silver threads across the green. 3 rivers stand out, vast and ancient. The Thames, the Severn, and the Trent. They flow like living pathways, each with its own personality, its own voice, its own long story whispered through the land. The ancient Thames, wide, slow, and serene, let us drift first toward the Thames, not the modern river, lined with cities and bridges, but its distant ancestor, flowing through a world of quiet marshes and dense woodland. In the Neolithic age, the Thames is far broader than it is now, spreading into several branching channels that weave around islands of reeds and mud. Thick layers of mist cling to its early morning surface, rising like pale smoke as the sun warms the horizon. Stand at its edge and listen. Frogs croak softly among the reeds, and the gentle splash of fish breaking the surface echoes across the water. Great flocks of waterfowl fly low overhead, their wings stirring the air with a rhythmic whisper. The river moves unhurriedly, as if savoring its journey toward the distant sea. Here, the banks are wild and irregular, dotted with thickets of willow and alder. Deer come to drink in the quiet hours of dawn, their hooves sinking lightly into the mud. At night, the calls of wild boar echo from the woods, mixing with the soothing lull of the slow current. In this age, early communities settle near the Thames for its abundance. They catch pike and salmon, gather reeds for weaving, and use its calm waters as a pathway to other settlements. The river is a companion, steady, reliable, and generous. But the Thames is only the beginning of our wandering. The Severn, powerful, tidal, and majestic. Now let the landscape shift, carrying us westward toward the Severn, Britain's longest river. Even in ancient times, the Severn is known for its strength. Its waters rush and curl with a confidence unmatched by other rivers. Where the Thames whispers, the Severn sings a deeper, more commanding song. As we approach, the world changes. Marshlands grow broader. Salt-touched air drifts inland from the distant estuary. The river stretches wide, and in some places, its rising and falling tides transform entire floodplains. Mudflats glisten under the sunlight like polished bronze. Large birds, herons, cranes, and curlews stand motionless in the shallows, waiting for the right moment to strike at darting fish. In the Neolithic age, the Severn bore its famous tidal surge still exists, though wilder and stronger than the modern versions observed today. Imagine a distant rumble, like thunder rolling above the earth. Then, a wave forms far down the river and travels upstream, pushing against the current with remarkable force. Early communities watch from a safe distance, fascinated by this natural spectacle, perhaps viewing it as a sign from powerful spirits connected to water and sky. The banks of the Severn are lush with life. Tall grasses sway in the wind. Vast wetlands create havens for otters, beavers, and countless birds. Trees bend slightly toward the water, shaped by centuries of sweeping tides and winter floods. The river here is not simply a resource. It is a living, shifting presence, unpredictable yet magnificent. People who settle near the Severn understand its temperament well. They respect its moods, build their homes on higher ground, and follow its tidal rhythms to know when it is time to gather shellfish or launch their canoes. Life here is shaped by ebb and flow, strength and stillness, flood and retreat. The Trent, winding, fertile, and full of voices finally. Let us drift northward toward the Trent, a river whose name is thought to mean the trespasser, or the traveler through lands. In the Neolithic world, the Trent is wide and meandering, carving its way through fertile plains, rich with life. Its waters are clear in some places, and silt-heavy in others, depending on the season and the rain. The Trent's banks are gentler than those of the Severn, but livelier than the calm stretches of the Thames. Here, the surrounding land bursts with greenery, vast patches of wild flowers, long swaying grasses, and stands of ancient trees that look untouched by time. Bees drift lazily from flower to flower, and dragonflies flash iridescent blue as they hover above the water. Fish teem beneath the surface, perch, carp, trout, and smaller silver fish that travel in shimmering schools. Otters play along the banks, slipping into the water with quiet splashes. Birds nest in the reeds, warblers, ducks, and great swirling flocks that rise in unison at the slightest disturbance. The Trent is a river of abundance, and early communities thrive along its edges. Its floodplains provide nourishment for crops, while its waters guide travelers between regions. Archaeological discoveries thousands of years later will reveal its important axes buried beneath its mud, decorated pottery fragments, and remnants of ancient pathways leading down to the water. 3 rivers, 3 stories, one ancient land together. The Thames, Severn, and Trent form the beating heart of Neolithic Britain. Each river brings life in different ways. Each shapes the land with its unique character. The Thames offers gentle stability. The Severn displays majestic power. The Trent provides abundance and connection. Early communities understand these rivers intimately, not in a scientific sense, but through daily experience, generational memory, and deep respect. They know where the water runs shallow, where fish gather, which banks flood first in winter, and which spots offer the clearest drinking water. They feel the river's presence like the steady pulse of a living world. As the sun sets across this ancient landscape, all 3 rivers glow with the final light of day. Their surfaces reflect the sky in shimmering patches of gold, rose, and violet. Mist begins to gather once more, softening the edges of the land. The river is quiet, preparing for night, and so do the people who live beside them. But our journey continues. The rivers have shaped the land, and now they will shape the settlements and rituals of the communities who call their banks home. Along the quiet bends of the ancient rivers, those broad, shimmering lifelines that shaped the Neolithic world, small clusters of homes began to rise where land met water. The Thames, the Severn, the Trent, and countless smaller streams all carried with them a gentle promise: safety, sustenance, and the soothing rhythm of an ever-flowing world. It was here, along the softer riverbanks and moss-lined shores, that the first settled communities began to take root. And if we drift close enough in our imagination, we can almost see them as dawn unfolds across a long-forgotten landscape. The first light comes slowly, washing the river in soft silver. Mist hangs low, thick in some pockets, teeny noters swirling like breath over the water's surface. And just beyond the reeds, the earliest homes of these riverside families stand in quiet silhouettes. They are simple, circular structures, warm, sturdy, and built from what nature offered so freely. Wooden posts driven into the earth form the outer frame, while woven branches and clay daubin give the walls their strength. The roofs stretch low and conical, covered in layers of reeds, gathered from the very marshes that cradled the village. Inside one of these homes, a fire sleeps beneath a blanket of ash, waiting for the moment someone stirs it back to life. Before long, the soft crackle of a waking hearth begins to drift through the air. Thin ribbons of smoke rise and curl up toward the roof's ventilation hole, then drift out into the still morning. The smell is familiar, earthy, warm, comforting, and it marks the start of another day along the water's edge. Families sleep close together inside these circular dwellings, wrapped in furs softened by long use. As the fire brightens, Silhouettes begin to shift beneath blankets. A mother gently coaxes a child awake. A young hunter rises, stretching sore muscles from yesterday's labor. An elder sits quietly, warming stiff hands near the embers while listening to the faint sounds of the river outside, its soft lapping, its distant birds, its everlasting voice. When they step outside, the day is newborn. Dew clings to every blade of grass. The ground is cool beneath their feet, and the air is filled with the thick, sweet scent of wet earth. Beyond the homes, a thin trail of hearth smoke rises from each dwelling, creating a peaceful haze that floats above the settlement. The riverside community feels alive, yet unhurried, wrapped in a gentle rhythm that has shaped life for generations. The river is both their neighbor and their teacher. Children run to its edge with wide eyes, eager to help gather reeds or inspect the patterns left behind by small creatures in the mud. The adults follow with purpose-carrying woven baskets, sharpened tools, and long wooden spears polished smooth by use. Everything here begins with the river. It offers fish gliding through the shallows, clay for shaping pots, water for drinking and crafting, and a winding route that leads ever onward should a family need to travel or trade. Just to the side of one home, a man kneels over a half-finished tool. His hands move with practiced patience, chipping flakes from a stone core, shaping a fine, sharp edge. Each strike echoes softly through the morning air tap. Tap, tap steady, and rhythmic. Nearby, another villager stretches strips of animal hide over a wooden frame, smoothing them with water drawn straight from the river. These crafts are not tasks to be rushed. They are careful acts of survival, woven into the slow, dependable flow of daily life. Further along the bank, women work together near the water's edge, kneeling in the shallows as they wash hides, scrub woven mats, and gather edible plants growing in abundance nearby. Their voices rise in soft conversation, gentle phrases, traded like little gifts, drifting across the water and fading into the reeds. Every sound here seems softened by the presence of the river, as if the landscape itself encourages quiet thoughtfulness. Above them, birds circle in great, effortless arcs. Waterfowl paddle between reeds, while herons stand tall and motionless in the shallows, their sharp eyes scanning for fish. The Neolithic settlers share this riverside world with countless creatures, moving in harmony with the seasons. In summer, the rivers swell gently with rainfall, providing cool refuge. In winter, ice sometimes forms along the edges, forcing the community to gather closer around their hearths, telling stories of ancestors and spirits who once walked the very same paths. As the morning deepens, the village begins to hum with activity. Smoke continues to rise from every roof. Children playing near the homes, imitating the tool-making techniques they see in their elders. Dogs, early companions in human life, wander between the dwellings, sniffing at cooking pots and watching carefully for scraps. The air fills with the sounds of grinding stones, crackling fires, and distant splashes from the river. The homes themselves, while simple, carry a quiet elegance. Their circular shape allows the heat of the hearth to spread evenly. The central fire is more than warmth. It is the heart of each household, a place for cooking, crafting, story sharing, and healing. At night, when darkness presses in from the forest and river, families gather around the fire's glow, watching sparks dance up into the smoky rafters while elders share tales of great journeys, sacred spirits, and ancient ways of understanding the world. The river, always present, becomes a character in these stories, sometimes gentle, sometimes unpredictable, always powerful. It teaches the people to adapt, to listen, to work together. Its rise and fall guide the seasons. Its bends and shallows become landmarks, passed down through generations, and its endless flow becomes a symbol of continuity in a world that is forever shifting. By midday, the riverbank settlement moves with steady purpose. Baskets filled with fish are carried back to the hearths. Fresh clay is shaped into small pots, drying in the sun. Tools are finished, repaired, or traded between families. And all the while, the river glistens, nearby calm, patient, and ancient. These early settlements may seem small by modern standards, just a cluster of homes shaped by earth, water, and wood. But they are the beating heart of a new way of living, a shift from wandering to belonging, from temporary shelters to enduring homes. Every piece of life here is tied to the river. And as the sun begins its slow descent, casting long golden reflections across the water, the people of this Neolithic community prepare again for evening. Fires brighten, meals simmer. Voices soften, and once more, the river carries the day's final light downstream, whispering its timeless lullaby to all who live along its edge. Long before temples rose from stone or great monuments carved their way into the memory of time, the earliest rituals began beside the quietest waters, springs bubbling from the earth, river crossings where currents slowed, and gentle confluences where two streams touched. These were the first sacred places in the Neolithic world. For the people who lived along the ancient Thames, Severn, Trent, and countless unnamed waterways, water was more than a resource. It was a presence, a boundary, a living thread connecting the human world to realms unseen. As the river mist lifts in the soft glow of early morning, the land feels almost hushed, as though waiting for something holy to stir. Drops of dew cling to the grasses like scattered beads of light. The air settles thick and cool across the marshy edges. It is here, near the soft murmur of the river, that villagers gather for rituals older than memory itself. Rituals shaped not by written laws, but by the sensations of the land, the rhythms of the water, and the quiet wisdom passed from elder to child. The people believe that every stream has a spirit, a gentle watcher that moves between reeds, listens to footsteps, and carries the voices of those who stand at its edge. Springs, especially, are seen as portals. The water emerges from the earth's hidden chambers, rising clear and cold, untouched by the world above. 2 cups spring water in one's hands is to hold something both deeply earthly and yet strangely otherworldly. Many early stories speak of these springs as the places where the earth breathes, where the boundary between the living and the ancestral world grows thin. A young woman kneels beside such a spring now, alone in the quiet of dawn. Her hands hover just above the surface, feeling the gentle warmth of the earth beneath, and the coolness of the water above, a meeting point of 2 realms. She whispers a prayer, taught to her by her grandmother, a soft string of words thanking the spirit of the spring for its purity and guidance. Then she leaves a small offering, a braided cord of reeds, tied carefully and placed on the mossy edge, where water meets soil. The cord will soften, unravel, and return to the earth over time. This is as it should be. The offering is not meant to endure, but to return, just as all things must. By the river banks, the rituals take on a different tone. Here, the water flows ever onward, carrying the hopes, fears, and gratitude of the people with it. A small group gathers near a shallow crossing, where stones form a natural bridge beneath the surface. The crossing is more than a convenient path. It is a sacred threshold. To step through the water is to pass symbolically from the human realm to another and back again. Elders remind younger villagers that each crossing should be made with intention. A pause, a breath, a moment of respect for the river's spirit. One elder, his hair silvering and his back stooped with age, leads a gentle ritual. He stands in the shallows, water swirling around his ankles, the early light reflecting around him like pale gold. He lifts a small, carved figurine shaped from river-polished wood and holds it toward the rising sun. It is an offering, carved in. Thanks for a successful season of fishing. The figurine is simple, but its meaning is deep, woven with gratitude and hope. With slow, deliberate movements, he sets the figurine upon the water. For a moment, it floats peacefully, bobbing gently with the current. Then the river carries it away. Those who watch remain silent, letting the water claim the gift as it inevitably will. The ritual is complete. It is not about what the water gives back, but what the people release to it. Nearby, confluences, where 2 rivers join, hold a special magic all their own. The people believe that when waters meet, spirits meet too. These are places of power, where the worlds seem to fold more closely together. As afternoon sun warms the land, families gather at one such confluence, where a smaller tributary flows into the main river. The sound here is richer, layered, the gentle trickle of the tributary mixing with the deeper hum of the main current. The very air seems to vibrate with quiet energy. The villagers come not only for rituals, but for guidance. Some bring questions of health. Others seek direction for travel or harvest. Yet others bring private worries, illness in the family, a troubled dream, uncertainty about the coming season. Here, they believe, the water listens differently. Here, whispers travel farther. Answers come not as spoken replies, but as feelings, sensations, or small signs in the moving water. A mother kneels to dip a woven charm into the confluence. The charm is crafted from willow twigs and small river stones tied together with long grass. She submerges it slowly, allowing the currents to tug and swirl around it. When she lifts it back into the air, droplets fall like tiny diamonds, and she touches it gently to her child's forehead. This charm will be hung above their hearth, offering protection through the turning of the seasons. As evening falls, the rituals take on a more mysterious tone. The river darkens, its surface now reflecting the faint glimmer of early stars. Fires are lit along the water's edge, not as beacons, but as soft companions to the rituals of the night. Shadows dance along the reeds. The water seems deeper, more secretive, holding the memory of every offering ever given to it. A group of villagers gathers for a night ceremony beside a place where the river bends sharply, forming a calm pool that locals call the Still Mirror. The surface lies unbroken, except for the lightest ripple of wind. They say that to look into the still mirror at night is to glimpse the shapes of ancestors, the ones who traveled these rivers before, the ones whose stories flow beneath every stone and red. An elder woman, keeper of many tales, leads the ceremony. She steps close to the water and speaks softly, her voice a blend of story and prayer. She speaks of the river as a pathway between worlds, a guide to souls journeying beyond, and a guardian of the living. As her voice continues, the villagers place small offerings at the water's edge. Beads carved from bone, tiny pots of grain, smooth stones etched with simple patterns. The air grows cooler. The stars brighten. The river carries the quiet words downstream, as if delivering them to someone listening far away. For the Neolithic people, water is more than a physical necessity. It is the first sacred teacher. It shows them how to move, how to wait, how to release, and how to trust in cycles larger than themselves. It is a boundary and a bridge, a mirror and a messenger, and every ritual performed along its edges echoes through generations, shaping beliefs that will one day grow into myths, traditions, and the earliest forms of religion. Long after the flames dim and the people drift back to their circular homes, the river continues its eternal journey, flowing through darkness, carrying the whispered prayers of the night into the waiting dawn. For thousands of years, the rivers of Neolithic Britain have carried secrets within their shifting currents, secrets laid carefully by hands long vanished, resting beneath layers of silt and time. Offerings were not thrown, nor discarded, nor abandoned. They were placed, laid gently beneath the surface with intention, belief, and a quiet reverence that speaks across millennia. Even now, when archaeologists uncover such objects, polished axes, carved timbers, delicate pottery, they often find them whole, unbroken, and carefully positioned. These discoveries suggest not loss, but ritual, not accident, but meaning. Imagine, for a moment, a calm morning by a slow-moving channel of the ancient Thames. The air is cool, carrying the scent of wet earth and willow leaves. Mist drifts in long, silent threads. Across the water, a small group of villagers approaches the riverbank, each carrying something wrapped in woven cloth. They move with a quiet sense of purpose, their footsteps soft on the damp ground. Today is not a feast day, nor a moment of crisis. It is a day of offering, a simple, solemn act of gratitude to the water that sustains their lives. One villager unties the cord round his bundle, revealing a polished stone axe. Its surface gleams with a soft, matte sheen, shaped by countless hours of patient grinding. The edge is still sharp. It is a thing of beauty, a tool that could have served a lifetime. Yet, it will never cut wood, never split kindling, never build a home. Instead, it is meant for the rivermen to rest. At the bottom, to become part of the unseen world beneath the moving surface. The man steps slowly into the water until the current surrounds his knees. He holds the axe with both hands, lowers it carefully, and releases it into the river as it gently pulls. For a heartbeat, The axe glimmers beneath the surface like a pale star. 10 It sinks, settling silently among stones and roots. The offering is complete. For modern eyes, it might seem strange to give away something so valuable. But to Neolithic communities, offerings were not losses, they were exchanges. Gifts given to a river spirit in return for safety, a good harvest, or peaceful seasons ahead. The river provided fish, water, clay, and reeds. It allowed travel, offered protection, and shaped the land around them. Giving something back was a way of acknowledging this relationship, of saying, "We see you, we thank you, we are guided by you." Further downstream, another offering tells a different story. Archaeologists once discovered a waterlogged timber carved with swirling lines patterns that seem almost alive, curling and flowing like moving water itself. The timber had been intentionally placed deep within a marshy pool. The carving was too intricate to be a simple tool or support beam. Instead, it seemed to be an object meant for ceremony, perhaps representing the spirit of the river, or the shape of life's journey from birth to death and beyond. Its placement beneath the murky surface suggests an offering meant, not just for this world, but for whatever lay beyond, hidden in the depths. Pottery appears again and again beneath ancient water's small bowls, wide-bellied vessels, and delicate cups decorated with fingertip impressions or corded patterns. Many of these pots were found intact, their rims unbroken, their edges smooth. They were not tossed into the rivers with force. They were lowered carefully, placid gently, and allowed to settle into the sediment with grace. One such vessel sits now beneath the currents of the imagined Severn, resting where ancient hands once laid it. Its simple, decorative lines catch flickers of underwater light. Perhaps it held an offering of sustenance. Perhaps it held water from another river, symbolizing the meeting of different spirits. Or perhaps it was left empty, representing possibility, hope, or the open future. Across the landscape, different communities developed their own traditions. Some placed offerings during transitions, births, deaths, rites of passage, or seasonal changes. Others made offerings after long journeys, giving thanks for safe crossings. Some believed that certain items carried the memory of individuals or families. By giving these items to the river, the memory would live on, carried by the flow of water that never stops moving, never stops listening. On the banks of the ancient Trent, a particularly serene ritual unfolds. The sun is sinking behind distant hills, casting a warm amber glow across the wide, shallow river. A young couple approaches the water, holding a small wooden bowl between them. Inside the bowl lie tiny beads made from animal bone, each bead carved by hand, each representing a member of their family. The couple stands in silence, feeling the cool breeze and hearing the soft lap of water against the shore. Then, without words, they lower the bowl into the current. It drifts for a few moments, turning gently as though considering the path it will take. Finally, the water tips the bowl, and the beads spill slowly into the river. They fall one by one, disappearing beneath the surface. The couple watches until the ripples fade. These beads, once worn as adornments, now belong to the water. The gesture is meant to ensure protection for the growing family, to strengthen their connection to the land and the river that sustains it. But not all offerings are small or delicate. Some are monumental, a sign of collective effort and shared belief. In one marshy inlet of the Thames, archaeologists uncovered an entire wooden platform, built meticulously, and then submerged intentionally. The platform served no practical purpose beneath the water. Instead, it seems to have been part of a grand ritual, perhaps a place for ceremonies above the surface before being surrendered to the depths. The craftsmanship of this platform speaks of community collaboration, women and children working together to shape heavy timbers, carve joining points, and build a structure meant to be both strong and symbolic. When the platform was finally lowered into the water, it became a gift from the entire community, a gesture that said, "We belong to this land, and we honor its living waters." What guided these rituals? Protection, perhaps asking the river to guard the settlement from floods, storms, or unseen forces. Gratitude for fish, for fertile soil, for safe travel. Memory honoring those who came before, ensuring their spirits had a place to rest, and maybe something deeper. the understanding that all things move in cycles, that giving and receiving are part of the same quiet, eternal rhythm. As night settles over the landscape, the waters continue to flow, carrying fragments of these ancient gestures. The polished axe glows softly in the darkness below. The carved timber rests beneath layers of silt. Pottery pieces lie peacefully on the riverbed, and though the people who placed them have long disappeared, their intentions remain still humming faintly through the currents, still woven into the quiet breath of the land. These offerings beneath the surface are fragments of a relationship between humans and water that shaped the very soul of Neolithic Britain. A relationship built on respect, humility, and the belief that the river was not just a feature of the world but a presence within it. As the long day leans gently into evening, the Neolithic rivers of Britain take on a softer, dreamlike quiet. Shadows lengthen across the water, reeds sway with slow, unhurried grace, and the warm glow of sunset spills like honey over the rippling surface. This is the hour the villagers cherish most, the hour when the world grows still enough to listen, and the river seems to breathe with them. It is a time made for ceremony, not grand or dramatic, but tender, peaceful, and carried by the soft rhythms of community. Along the river's winding edge, people gather barefoot in the cool grass. Their footsteps are light, barely disturbing the damp earth beneath them. The air is tinged with the scent of smoke from small torches already lit, each flame flickering gently, casting long, wavering reflections across the slow-moving current. The sky above is a wash of pale purple fading into deepening blue, and the first stars blink awake like distant sparks. Tonight's ritual is simple, an evening ceremony meant to honor the turning of the season. Not a celebration, not a plea, but a quiet acknowledgement of the river's steady presence in their lives. These people do not rush. They do not speak loudly. They move with a deep, practiced calm that has been shaped by generations living beside this water. The elders arrive first, carrying bundles wrapped in woven cloth. These bundles contain offerings, not treasures or luxuries, but humble objects with meaning. A smooth stone found at the riverbed, a tiny wooden carving, a small bowl of berries, a braid of dried grass. Each item carries a memory or intention, gratitude for a recent harvest, wish for protection, or simple thanks for the river's endless guidance. Children follow, their eyes wide, holding their own small gifts: a feather, a shell, a handful of petals. Even the smallest offerings matter. In Tees world, the act of giving is more important than the object itself. The river accepts all gestures, large and small, and carries them gently into its hidden depths. As the group settles by the water, the torches glow brighter in the descending dusk. Their warm light reflects across the surface, forming long paths of shimmering gold that gently break and reform with the slow movement of the river. These reflections look almost alive, stretching, bending, dancing softly as if inviting the villagers into a quiet communion. The ceremony begins without announcement. An elder steps forward, placing her bare feet into the shallow edge of the water. She lifts her hands, palms open, facing the river. Her voice rises in a low, rhythmic chant, gentle, steady, like the rolling of distant thunder softened by great distance. The words carry no fixed meaning, meant more to soothe than to instruct. A sound passed down through generations, shaped by memory rather than language. Slowly, others join her. The voices blend into a soft hum, rising and falling like breath. The chanting is not loud. It does not echo across the hills. Instead, it folds neatly into the evening air, becoming part of the landscape, part of the river itself. The sound weaves between torchlight and water, between reed and stone, forming a soft, meditative harmony. As the chanting continues, villagers step forward one by one, guided not by order, but by instinct. A young man places a carved wooden charm at the water's edge, watching it float gently before sinking. A mother lowers a tiny bowl into the river, letting the current carry away the berries inside. A child kneels, carefully setting a ring of flowers onto the surface where it drifts slowly, catching the torchlight in little bursts of color before it disappears into shadowed water. The river accepts each offering with quiet grace. There is no splash, no disturbance, only the subtle shifting of ripples. as if the water is reaching up to receive what is given. The offerings do not need to last. They do not need to be seen again. Their purpose is fulfilled the moment they touch the surface, carried downstream into the deep memory of the land. The ceremony continues. With slow, mindful movements, no one ruses. No one breaks the peace with hurried gestures. Even the children seem wrapped in the gentle stillness of the moment, swaying slightly to the rhythm of the chanting. Somewhere beyond the river bank, an owl begins its first call of the night. A faint breeze stirs the reeds, adding its whisper to the harmony of sounds. When the final villager steps back from the water's edge, the chanting softens, gradually falling into silence. The torches burn steadily, their flames flickering in the cooling air. The river glows faintly beneath the starlit sky, holding the memory of the ritual in its quiet flow. Now comes the final act of the ceremony, a moment of shared stillness. The villagers sit on the soft grass, legs folded, hands resting gently on their laps. They face the water, watching as darkness deepens and the last hues of sunset fade. No words are spoken. There is only the gentle pulse of the river, the soft crackle of torch fire, and the deep, steady peace of dusk settling fully into night. For these communities, ceremonies like this are not grand spectacles, but moments of alignment, aligning with nature, with each other, with the breath of the river itself. They believe that the river remembers these rituals, carrying traces of them through time. Every offering placed, every chant spoken, every footstep pressed into the damp soil becomes part of a story far older than any one person. As fireflies flicker to life along the riverbank, the villagers rise slowly, as if waking from a shared dream. The torches are extinguished one by one, their smoke curling lazily into the night air. Darkness embraces the land, but it is a gentle darkness, softened by the lingering warmth of community and ritual. The people walk back toward their homes in a long, quiet line. Their shadows ripple across the grass. Behind them, the river flows on, carrying the night's offerings deeper into its hidden world. Somewhere beneath the surface, the wooden charms, stones, flowers, and simple gifts settle softly onto the riverbed, joining countless offerings placed by countless generations before them. The ceremony fades into the quiet of night, but its echo remains woven into the rippling water, carried through the reeds, whispered gently across the darkening land. And though the ritual will be repeated many times in the years to come, each evening brings its own peace, its own soft shimmer of torchlight on water, its own memory drifting into the timeless rhythm of the river. As the rivers of Neolithic Britain wound their way through quiet valleys and open plains, they carried more than fish, reeds, and drifting petals from distant shores. They carried meaning. They shaped belief. They formed the invisible lines that guided early people to build some of the most extraordinary monuments the world would ever know. Long before, stone circles stood proudly against the sky. Their foundations were laid in the soft language of water rivers that carved paths through the land and through the minds of the people who depended on them. To walk through ancient Britain now, in the hush of this imagined twilight, is to sense a network of connections stretching between earth, water, and sky. Stonehenge, Avebury walls, and countless lesser-known circles all share a silent dialogue with the rivers that once flowed more boldly than they do today. It is here the story begins, not with stone, but with water. Imagine the river Avon winding through its ancient course, broader and deeper than today, lined with thick reeds and willow branches swaying like slow breath. Its surface reflects a sky alive with countless stars, forming silver ribbons of light that flicker and shift with the current. This river was a highway, a boundary, a spiritual path. It is believed that the great stones of Stonehenge, those towering saucons, that still Commander Play may have followed this watery route on their long journey from distant quarries. Theories whisper of rafts built from sturdy timbers, lashed with rope made of twisted reeds and fibers. The stones, enormous beyond comprehension, could not have been moved by land alone, but riversteady.com and Patient offered a gentler way. The people worked with the water, not against it, guiding the stones along quiet currents, pushing from below with poles, pulling from the banks with ropes. The river became not just a transport route, but a partner in creation. Its flow shaped the rhythm of their efforts, the timing of their work, the places they paused. As a stone approached the sacred heart of its journey, the people might have honored the river that carried it. Some believe small offerings were cast into the water-fling tools. Beads, small carved figurines as a gesture of gratitude for safe passage. The river accepted these tokens, folding them into its mud and memory. Even today, artifacts found along ancient river routes suggest moments of quiet ritual during the transportation of these stones. Across the land, the connection between rivers and monuments deepened not only through movement, but through alignment. Some stone circles appear to have been placed in perfect harmony with the nearby waters. Avebury, with its sweeping earthworks and massive stones standing sentinel across a vast circle, lies within reach of the River Kennet. The river curves gently through the landscape as though guiding the placement of the stones, encouraging a circular path that mirrors the eternal flow of water. To walk through Avebury in the fading light is to feel a sense of spiraling, energy soft, grounding, and calming. The stones do not loom or threaten. They simply exist, vast and patient, holding the memory of the land in their weathered surfaces. Many archaeologists believe the positioning of Avebury is intentional, aligned not only with celestial bodies but with the contours of the river valley itself. From certain angles, the stones seem to frame the flow of water, inviting the eye to travel with it across the fields. Water, scoop, and stone come together in a harmony that feels less constructed and more discovered as though the builders simply revealed a pattern already woven into the earth. Further along the Avon, Dorrington walls emerges a vast circular enclosure that may have been bustling with life during the construction of Stonehenge. Here, too, the river played a vital role. Excavations have revealed evidence of feasts, gatherings, and ceremonial pathways leading directly from the settlement to the water's edge. It is believed that people moved between Dorrington walls and Stonehenge along a route guided by the river, following a sequence of ritual spaces that formed a symbolic journey through life, death, and rebirth. Some researchers suggest that Stonehenge was aligned not only with celestial events like the solstices but with the river itself, creating a landscape of connected sacred spaces. Dorrington walls may have been associated with the living, feasting, community, seasonal gatherings. Stonehenge, carved with precision and aligned with the rising and setting sun at midwinter and midsummer, may have represented the ancestors or the afterlife. Between them flowed the river, a path bridging worlds, carrying people and meaning from one realm to another. In this imagined dusk, you walk along the river bank near Dorrington walls. The day is slipping softly into evening, the air cooling, the light mellowing into a muted gold. You can almost hear the footfalls of ancient travelers moving along this very path, carrying torches that cast trembling reflections into the water. Their journey is not hurried. It is ceremonial, deliberate, guided by the steady pulse of the river. As they walk, the landscape unfolds in gentle layers. Distant hills, fields of tall grass swaying like waves, and the faint silhouette of stones rising in the far distance. The river leads them onward, its surface catching the light of the setting sun. In their minds, water and sky intertwine. The river flows east to west. The sun dips west to east. Two directions, two movements, creating a quiet balance that shapes their understanding of the world. Even the alignments of the stones seem to reflect this idea of balance. Stonehenge is oriented to the solstice line, marking the longest day and the shortest day moments when the sun's journey appears to pause before reversing direction. Avebury's enormous circle embraces the land, following the gentle slope of the valley. Dorrington walls forms a ring connected to pathways that lead toward both sunrise and sunset. Everywhere, circles and lines echo the cycles of nature, the turning of seasons, the ebb and flow of floods, the path of the sun, and the constant journey of the river. For the Neolithic people, none of this was accidental. They were observers of nature, listeners to the land, watchers of the sky. They built with intention, guided not by maps or measurements as we know them, but by patterns sensed through centuries of living in harmony with the earth. In their minds, water was not separate from stone. The river was not separate from the sun. All pieces of the world were threaded together in an unbroken tapestry. As night deepens, the great stones fade into silhouette. The river becomes a dark ribbon, moving quietly beneath the first stars. You can imagine how these ancient builders might have seen their work at night, stones lit by torchlight, river shimmering like molten silver, constellations spinning above in silent grandeur. In these moments, the alignments become clear. Stone pointing to sky, sky mirrored in water. Water guiding the shape of the land. It is this harmony, this gentle intertwining of elements, that gives Britain's Neolithic monuments their enduring power. They are more than circles of stone. They are expressions of a deep, reflective relationship with the natural world. They are places where water shaped belief, where rivers guided creation, where people stood between earth and sky and felt a sense of belonging that still resonates today. The rivers continue to flow. The stones continue to stand. And together, they whispered the quiet memory of a world where every alignment was a conversation with the land. Across the quiet landscape of ancient Britain, where the rivers wound through the earth like shimmering threads of silver, the communities who lived along their banks understood something profound. That with enough patience, unity, and intention, even the heaviest of stones could be persuaded to move. It was not speed they sought, nor competition, nor any sense of urgency. In those early days, life unfolded at the pace of sunrise and rainfall, of new grass pushing through the soil, of rivers carving their beds grain by grain. And it was at this gentle rhythm that the great monuments began their journey. Stone at a time, guided from river to hill by hands that worked not in haste, but in harmony with the land. Imagine, dear listener, the soft morning mist rising from the water's surface. As a group of Neolithic families gathers near the riverbank, the air holds the faint scent of damp earth and fresh willow. Birds call from the reeds, their early songs drifting across the current in this peaceful hour before the day fully wakes. Preparations begin for a task that seems impossible to our modern eyes, the moving of stones weighing several tons. Yet for these early people, the stones are not burdens. They are companions, ancestors, or vessels for meaning. They are a part of the land itself, as alive in their own silent way as the river that runs beside them. Around the stone, teams move with slow, assured motions. Wooden rollers cut from straight, sturdy trunks are placed beneath its weight. Ropes woven from plant fibers, softened by river water and tightened by careful hands, loop around its sides. Families who have worked together for years, perhaps generations, take their places. Some steady the ropes, some guide the rollers. Others sing the low, rhythmic chants that keep the pace unified. There is no overseer, no shouted commands, only quiet coordination, soft histories, and the shared understanding that each movement must be gentle, deliberate, respectful. The river is their ally. Its banks provide the smooth paths along which the stones can be eased forward, bit by bit, toward the place where they will eventually stand. The ground here is firm but forgiving. The grass is thick and springy. As the stone shifts, the rollers turn beneath it with soft crackles of bark. Every few steps, the team pauses not to rest, though the task is heavy, but to listen. They attune themselves to the subtle groans of wood, the shifting balance of the stone, the whispers of the wind moving across the water. In T's world, nature is not merely observed. It is partnered with. At times, the river itself becomes part of the journey. Archaeologists long puzzled over how stones might have been transported such great distances, but many now believe that waterways played a quiet, crucial role. Imagine a simple but graceful wooden platform lashed together with flexible branches and lengths of hide floating atop the calm surface of the ancient Avon or the upper Thames. The stone rests upon it like a silent guest, the water supporting much of its immense weight. Men and women wade beside the raft, guiding it with long poles, the reflections shimmering across the surface. With each gentle push, ripples spread outward until they vanish into the reeds. The journey is slow, sometimes taking several days, but along the water, slowness is a strength, not a hindrance. As the stone moves, the entire community participates in quiet ways. Children gather berries and bring cool river water in clay cups. Elders sit nearby, weaving new rope or smoothing the wooden rollers with patient strokes. The songs the workers sing are older than anyone can remember, and they echo softly through the trees and marsh grass. These chants are not meant to energize or rally, but to steady the heart, to keep everyone breathing in the same rhythm. to remind them that the task is a shared purpose, not a burden carried alone. When the stone finally reaches the foot of the hill where it will stand, the mood shifts. There's no cheer, no burst of celebration. Instead, a kind of peaceful reverence settles over the group. Here, in this elevated place, overlooking the winding rivers below, the stone feels as though it has reached a destination it was always meant to find. The hills of prehistoric Britain were not chosen at random. Many align with celestial paths or sit within sight of waterways that served as spiritual arteries. The positioning of these stones was a quiet conversation between earth, sky, and flowing water. Raising the stone is perhaps the most delicate task of all. A pit is prepared with careful precision, its depth measured by instinct as much as by experience. Wooden supports are fashioned from the trunks of nearby trees, their surfaces smoothed to avoid sudden splits. Ropes are tested and retested, tightened by hands that know exactly how much tension each fiber can bear. As the stone is eased upright, there are no sudden movements, no hurried tugs, only the cooperation of dozens of bodies shifting together, breath by breath, each movement guided by trust and long-practiced familiarity. The moment the stone finds its footing, the moment it settles into the waiting earth, there is a profound silence. Birds quiet. The wind slows. Even the river seems to hold its breath, as though acknowledging the addition to the ancient conversation of the landscape. The people step back, not triumphant, but deeply peaceful. They touch the stone lightly with their palms, feeling the faint warmth left by the sun or the coolness carried from the river's shade. In that touch lies gratitude, for the strength of the group, for the guidance of the water, and for the stone itself, which has allowed them to move it from one sacred place to another. In the evenings that follow, fires burn softly around the new standing stone. Families gather nearby, their faces illuminated by the gentle glow. Children fall asleep against their parents' arms, while elders share quiet stories of where the stones came from, why they stand, and how they hold memory in their silent, towering forms. The river below continues its endless passage, carrying whispers of the day's work downstream. And the stone no longer a traveller. Now a sentinel keeps watch over the landscape, linking river to hill, community to sky, past to future. In this way, one stone becomes part of something larger, an alignment, a circle, a pathway of meaning. But its journey, though long and deliberate, is never rushed. For the Neolithic people, the act of moving it is as sacred as the place where it will finally stand. It is a ritual of cooperation, a testament to quiet strength, and a reminder that when humans work with the land rather than against it, even the heaviest burdens can be carried with grace. As the seasons turned across the gentle hills and flowing rivers of Neolithic Britain, life unfolds in quiet, enduring patterns. The people who inhabit this land move in rhythm with the earth itself, listening to the pulse of the seasons, the shifting light, and the water that winds through their valleys like a silver thread. Each day carries its own cadence, soft and steady, and every act, from sowing seeds to gathering firewood, reflects a harmony with the natural world rather than dominion over it. In the early spring, when the first warmth touches the soil, families gather along riverbanks to prepare fields for planting. The ground is still damped with snowmelt, and small streams that have swelled with winter rains lap softly against the stones. Women and men work together to clear stones from plots, using simple tools fashioned from wood, bone, and flint. Children wander nearby, exploring the edges of the river, listening to the quiet chatter of frogs and the distant call of birds, carrying small offerings of pebbles or reeds to place on the water as a game or as a ritual, blending play with devotion. The act of planting is gentle, deliberate, seeds pressed into soft earth, a small prayer for their growth whispered into the wind. As spring advances into summer, the rivers become the center of both sustenance and celebration. Fish swim in abundance, and villagers cast simple nets or traps, gathering food while observing the water's ever-changing currents. The river is a teacher, showing where the fish gather and where reeds grow thickest. Women weave mats and baskets from reeds, while men carve small tools to aid in fishing or craft simple boats that glide quietly over the surface. In Tasiacs, there is no rush. Each movement is guided by experience, intuition, and respect for the land that gives life. The river is never a resource. Alone it is a companion, a mirror, and a conduit for memory. By midsummer, communities come together to honor seasonal milestones. Small gatherings occur along the banks, often near shallow pools or confluences, where the water slows and broadens. Here, feasts take place, not of excess, but of shared abundance. Children and elders, hunters and all partake in simple fare. Grains roasted over fire, fresh vegetables from nearby plots, and fish caught that very morning. These celebrations are marked by quiet music, a wooden flute, the soft beat of a hand drum, or the gentle hum of voices raised in rhythm. Songs are passed from parent to child, not to impress or perform, but to carry stories of the seasons, the rivers, and the enduring connection between people and land. As autumn arrives, the landscape shifts in hue. Fields that were green become golden. The river carries the first falling leaves downstream in a gentle cascade. Harvest is a careful, meditative task. Villagers work alongside one another, cutting grain, gathering nuts, and storing root vegetables for the colder months. There is a rhythm to their labor. One family member swings a simple sickle, another gathers the cut stalks, while a child carefully bundles small bundles for drying. The river provides a backdrop to this work, its steady murmur accompanying the repeated motions, reminding all of the constancy of life and the flow of time. Evening rituals accompany the turning of the seasons. Small offerings are left along river banks. A polished stone placed in thanks for a bountiful catch. A simple carved figure set among reeds to honor the spirits of the land. The act is quiet and deliberate, part of an unbroken tradition that connects the people to both their ancestors and the world around them. There is no grand spectacle, no urgency, only a deep, abiding sense that life itself is sacred, and that every action resonates far beyond the individual. Winter arrives softly, bringing frost to the river's edge and mist to the lowlands. The pace of life slows naturally. Families gather indoors in circular homes, where hearths glow warmly, filling the spaces with gentle heat and the scent of cooking food. Tools are repaired, clothing is mended, and stories are told. Elders recount journeys, river crossings, and the placement of stones in distant circles, weaving lessons about patience, respect, and the unseen bonds between water, earth, and human life. Children listen with wide eyes, absorbing the rhythm and wisdom of generations. Even in the coldest months, the river continues its quiet work, reminding all that life never truly stops. Ice may form along its edges, but beneath, the water moves steadily, whispering beneath the surface. Villagers still visit the banks, check in traps, gathering firewood, or simply standing in silent reflection. These moments are meditative, an acknowledgement that, while the seasons cycle and human activity slows, nature flows continuously, and they are part of its endless rhythm. Throughout the year, river-based traditions reinforce the connection between people and water. Seasonal crossings, the placement of simple offerings, and quiet observation of fish, birds, and reeds, all strengthen a sense of belonging. The rivers are teachers of patience, guides in ritual, and witnesses to family life. They mark the passage of time, reflect the sky's changing colors, and provide continuity through the generations. In Tees, world, water, stone, and land are inseparable from human experience, intertwined with every birth, every harvest, every celebration, and every moment of rest. Daily life is punctuated by these soft, intentional acts. Children learn to listen to the wind, to follow the river's course, to understand the subtle shifts of light on water that indicate changes in weather or season. Adults cultivate both crops and relationships with the land, teaching by example, never commanding. Elders carry memory in their stories, recalling the stones placed on distant hills, the offerings left beneath moving water, the ceremonies held at dusk and dawn. These lessons are not written, they are felt in the rhythm of life itself, experienced in the quiet observation of nature's cycles. And so, life in Neolithic Britain unfolds not as a series of frantic or dramatic events, but as a continuous, harmonious dance with the natural world. Seasons turn, rivers flow, families work and rest, communities gather and disperse. Each stone raised, each seed planted, each song hummed beside the water strengthens the bond between humans and their environment. In disquiet, meditative existence, the people live in harmony with nature, learning not to control, but to coexist with, to honor, and to understand the gentle, unbroken flow of life. The years pass in this rhythm, unnoticed in the details but profound in their continuity. Spring, summer, autumn, and winter follow one another in endless rotation. The rivers, always moving, always present, shape the land and the lives of those who inhabit it. And through it all, the people of Neolithic Britain understand that peace comes not from conquest, but from attunement, patience, and a deep abiding connection to the world around them. Connection carried silently in every harvest, every song, every offering, and every quiet moment by the river's edge. Across the quiet landscapes of Neolithic Britain, the rivers and wetlands hold memories older than any written word. Beneath the gently flowing waters, beneath layers of silt and earth, lie remnants of lives long past, objects, structures, and traces that reveal the careful, thoughtful world of people who lived in harmony with nature. These are the secrets buried in time, preserved in waterlogged soil and hidden from sight, waiting for patient discovery. They are fragments of a life, both ordinary and profound, quietly enduring for thousands of years beneath the calm surface of rivers, lakes, and mud. In certain stretches of the Thames, archaeologists have uncovered wooden platforms that seem to have been deliberately placed in the shallows. The wood, preserved by the constant wet and low oxygen, carries the marks of hands that shaped it long before the first stones of Stonehenge were set upright. The platforms may have served as ceremonial spaces or communal meeting points, but their true purpose remains a gentle mystery, whispered through the grain of the timber. One can imagine the quiet steps of villagers crossing the platform, carrying small offerings to the water, listening to the soft splash of their feet and the low murmur of flowing currents beneath them. These platforms were not built in haste. They were crafted with care, patience, and respect for the surrounding landscape, and their survival through millennia is a testament to the delicate balance between human ingenuity and the natural world. Nearby, shallow river channels have yielded remnants of ancient boats, simple dugouts carved from single tree trunks. These vessels were not large, nor meant for great speed, yet they were essential for the people who navigated rivers to fish, trade, or reach distant settlements. The remains of these boats, preserved in anaerobic mud, showed careful shaping and smoothing, evidence of both practical skill and deep understanding of the wood itself. One can picture a small family paddling along the river at dawn, the mist hovering low above the water, the quiet reflection of reeds and trees mirrored on the surface. In these moments, the boat becomes more than a tool. It is an extension of life, moving gently through the arteries of the landscape, connecting people to one another and to the rhythms of nature. Scattered beneath rivers and lakes are also countless smaller artifacts. Polished stone axes, carefully shaped flint tools, fragments of pottery, and carved wooden objects. These were often deposited intentionally, placed in water as offerings, left to rest in sediment for reasons we can only partially understand. Each piece carries traces of hands that touched it, of communities that remembered its meaning, of ceremonies or daily tasks that ended with a gentle act of placement. The polished axes, once functional tools, now speak to us not of labor, but of reverence. The delicate pottery, still intact, suggests a care that extends beyond practicality into the realm of ritual or memory. One of the most intriguing discoveries comes from the wetlands near the river Severn, where clusters of wooden stakes and planks were found embedded in the mud. These structures appear to have been arranged deliberately, forming patterns or perhaps platforms. Some researchers suggest they could have been early walkways, connecting dwellings or ritual sites, while others see them as part of sacred spaces for seasonal gatherings. The placement of these timbers reflects an intimate understanding of the environment. The shifting tides, the soft soils, the movement of water through reeds and marshes. In these constructions, one senses the quiet intelligence of a people who observed, adapted, and worked in harmony with the world around them. Even stone objects, when found submerged or placed in riverbeds, tell their own stories. Large, carefully selected boulders appear alongside tools and pottery in deposits, that seem intentional rather than accidental. Perhaps they marked sacred spots along the water, places of reflection or remembrance. Perhaps they served as anchors for offerings, grounding them in a ritualized connection between humans and nature. Whatever the reason, their presence in waterlogged layers speaks of a consistent, enduring practice. The act of leaving behind a fragment of life, of memory, of intention, for the river to carry, preserve, and quietly witness for generations. These discoveries, wooden platforms, boats, stone tools, and pottery remind us that Neolithic Britain was not a world of chaos or randomness, but of careful observation and deliberate action. The people who lived along these rivers were attuned to the natural cycles of the seasons, the rise and fall of water, and the quiet movements of plants and animals. Every action, whether the shaping of a tool or the placement of an offering, reflects a rhythm of life that blends practicality, artistry, and spirituality. They left traces, not because they wished to be remembered, but because they lived with a sense of continuity, a recognition that life was part of an ongoing flow that included rivers, trees, stones, and human hands alike. Imagine walking along a quiet riverbank today, your feet pressing softly into damp soil. Beneath the water, invisible to your eyes, lie these relics of the past. Timbers holding patterns of ritual, axes gleaming faintly in the soft mud, pottery waiting patiently beneath layers of silt. Each one is a memory, a story, a quiet testament to lives once lived with attentiveness and care. You may not see them, yet their presence is still felt, as if the river itself remembers, carrying these secrets in its flow, whispering them softly to anyone who pauses to listen. Even submerged artifacts tell us about human resilience and creativity. The placement of large wooden structures in wetlands, often in locations difficult to reach, demonstrates ingenuity and determination. The use of natural materials in ways that harmonize with the landscape shows a profound understanding of what the world can offer and how it can support human endeavor. Every discovery is a window into a world where life, labor, and reverence for nature were inseparable, where rivers were both practical highways and sacred conduits for memory and connection. Through these preserved objects, the Neolithic rivers of Britain speak to us across millennia. They remind us that the people who lived here were thoughtful and deliberate, that their actions, whether raising a stone, crafting a tool, or placing an offering beneath the water, were guided by observation, intention, and respect. And although the original creators are long gone, the rivers themselves carry their presence, quietly holding these memories in the soft pool of currents, the subtle whisper of reeds, and the reflective shimmer of moonlight on water. The secrets buried in time are not hidden to punish or confuse. They are hidden to endure. They wait beneath the riverbed, in mud and silt, preserving the wisdom, care, and quiet strength of a people who understood the importance of harmony with the land. And when we discover them, we are invited into that ancient rhythm, learning once again the gentle art of patience, observation, and reverence for the natural world, a world that flows on, carrying with it the echoes of lives that have long since merged with the currents of history. The rivers of Britain continue to flow, as they have for countless generations, carrying water, life, and memory through the gentle hills and valleys. Though the landscape has changed, though modern towns and roads now intersect the land once traveled only by feet and rafts, there remains a quiet continuity, a presence of the past that whispers beneath the surface of everyday life. If one pauses, if one listens with calm attentiveness, it is possible to sense the subtle echoes of ancient communities, the faint traces of ceremonies, journeys, and offerings that have long since merged with the flowing waters. Walk along the Thames at dawn, and the river glimmers under the soft light, reflecting the sky in patterns that have not changed in thousands of years. In those still moments, it is easy to imagine the Neolithic families who once lived along its banks. Children splashed lightly in the shallows, women tended to the planting of reeds, men guided small dugout boats carrying stone or food. Torches might have flickered along the river's edge at dusk, their reflections shimmering in the same currents that now carry morning mist and drifting leaves. The water remembers. It carries those quiet moments forward, folding them gently into its constant flow. Across Britain, the Severn winds through the countryside, a gentle ribbon linking fields, hills, and forests. Modern bridges span its waters, and boats move silently along its surface. Yet the river holds within it traces of the past. Wooden platforms and submerged tools, discovered by archaeologists, speak softly of ceremonies, of offerings placed in gratitude or reverence. These objects, preserved for millennia beneath layers of silt, remind us that life once followed a slower, more meditative rhythm, one in which humans moved carefully, mindfully, and in harmony with the land. Even today, as you watch the river curve through meadows, you can feel the continuity. The quiet line connecting you to hands, feet, and hearts that lived in sync with nature thousands of years ago. The Trent, too, flows steadily, linking ancient sites and natural spaces. Its waters once guided stones for monumental constructions, nourished crops, and carried families on calm journeys. Today, though modern life surrounds it, the river still offers glimpses of its long memory. Soft ripples along the banks reflect the sky. Reeds sway in wind patterns unchanged for centuries, and fish dart beneath the surface as they have since time immediately. It is a living reminder that even as the world moves forward, history does not vanish. It continues quietly beneath the surface, in every bend of water, every stone along the shore, and every whisper of wind through the trees. The monuments and stone circles, once intricately connected to these rivers, continued to stand as silent witnesses. Stonehenge rises on Salisbury Plain, Avebury stretches across its gentle valley, and Durrington walls hints at gatherings long past. Even without human presence, these stones converse with the rivers, the sky, and the seasons, keeping alive the memory of those who aligned them with both celestial and aquatic rhythms. Solstice. The sun casts its light in patterns observed for millennia. Each river reflects the passing of days, seasons, and centuries. The harmony between stone and water remains, a bridge between the distant past and the present, offering a place for reflection and quiet connection. In our modern world, it is easy to overlook such continuity, to forget the depth of history beneath familiar landscapes. Yet if one takes a moment to pause walking by the river, listening to its gentle murmur, watching sunlight glint across its surface, connection becomes palpable. Every ripple, every bird call, every rustle of reeds carries memory. The ancient offerings left in waters long ago, the footsteps of people walking carefully along riverbanks, the soft glow of torchlight at dusk all merge with the present moment. History's not behind us, nor is it distant. It is flowing gently, beneath our feet, beneath our awareness, within the very fabric of the rivers that shape our land. Even the smallest details, the smooth stone carried home as a keepsake, the echo of a song sung to mark a season, the careful alignment of a wooden platform with the river's current remain in some form, folded into the landscapes and waters we now inhabit. Modern life may carry noise, haste, and distraction, but the rivers continue, patient and unwavering. They remind us that life is not only what we see or touch, but also what has been preserved in silence, in water, and in the rhythms of the natural world. In these quiet connections, there is peace, a gentle awareness of belonging to something greater, a story that stretches beyond individual lifetimes. To sit by the rivers of Britain today is to join a long continuum of observers, workers, and ritualists. The same currents that once carried offerings now reflect the sky above. The same reeds rustle in the wind, and the same water nourishes both wildlife and human imagination. The connection between past and present is subtle but undeniable. We carry forward the knowledge that the land is more than a backdrop. It is an active participant in human life, a witness to our stories, and a keeper of memory. Every day we live alongside these ancient rivers, our footsteps lightly pressing into landscapes once traversed by people who cherished, respected, and harmonized with the world around them. As twilight falls and the day softens into night, the rivers reflect the fading light with quiet brilliance. The sound of flowing water is steady, soothing, a reminder that the passage of time is gentle and continuous. Stars appear above, mirrored faintly in the current below. Perhaps, for a moment, one can imagine the voices of the past, the hum of ritual, the laughter of children, the rhythmic work of moving stones, blending with the present. In this imagined overlap, there is a serene understanding that human life, nature, and memory are intricately intertwined. The past is not lost. It flows on, like the rivers themselves, carrying echoes of Neolithic Britain into every modern moment, and offering a sense of calm, continuity, and belonging to those who pause to notice, even in the simplest acts, throwing a pebble into a stream, walking along a bank, pausing to watch fish dart in the current. One can sense this enduring connection. It is a gentle reminder that our lives are part of a longer story, that the rivers beneath our attention hold memories older than we can imagine, and that we, too, can participate in the quiet rhythm of observation, care, and reflection that guided Neolithic communities. History, like the water, flows beneath the surface, touching everything without demanding recognition, carrying peace, continuity, and gentle presence into the modern world. As you leave the riverbank, or close your eyes in quiet reflection, carry this awareness with you. The rivers of Britain are not merely landscapes, nor the stones and platforms remnants of an abstract past. They are living threads that connect us to those who walked before, whose lives were simple, deliberate, and attuned to the natural world. And those centuries have passed, the gentle flow of memory continues, in every ripple, every quiet current, and in the very land itself, inviting us to pause, breathe, and feel the enduring, peaceful presence of history beneath our feet. And now, as our journey along the ancient rivers of Neolithic Britain comes to a close, let us linger for a moment in the gentle stillness of the past. The stones, the rivers, the soft rituals of daily life, they remain quietly flowing into memory, connecting us to a time long gone but never forgotten. Feel the calm of the rivers beneath your mind, the whispers of wind through reeds, and the steady rhythm of life in harmony with nature. The echoes of ancient footsteps, offerings placed in water, and quiet ceremonies all remind us that peace endures when we move gently with the world around us. Now, as the spoken story comes to its end, allow the soothing music to carry you fully into relaxation. Let it guide your thoughts like a calm river, letting each note wash over you, settling your mind and body into quiet reflection and rest. Drift softly, and let the memories of this serene journey flow gently with you into your sleep.